Why does the internet act shocked when a kid-friendly YouTube star turns 18 and immediately flips the switch from Wholesome to Paywalled? Like this wasn't the most predictable season finale in the Child Fame franchise? One day, it's bright thumbnails, squeaky clean branding, and family content. And the next, it's a subscription link, revenue flexing, and a smug little lesson that Outrage is just free marketing with better lighting. And the creepiest part isn't the pivot, it's how smooth it is, like the entire pipeline was waiting for a birthday to become a business launch. But wait, because the real story isn't she did it. It's who trained the audience, built the machine, and taught everyone that attention, love or hate, can be converted into cash on command. Stay till the end, because the hypocrisies and the quiet incentives behind this rebrand will change how you look at child stardom online. At first glance, it looks like a clean, almost corporate rebrand. So clean it barely feels human. The kind of transition that pretends it's spontaneous while hitting every beat like a launch campaign. The Instagram bio quietly updates. The link in bio becomes the main character. The captions shift from "so grateful for you guys" to something sharper, more adult, more confident. Like the tone got approved by a manager in a glass office, and the visuals follow suit. Fewer chaotic group vlogs, fewer family-friendly setups, more controlled framing, softer lighting, a camera angle that suddenly understands branding. This is the surface story the internet keeps arguing about. A creator turns 18 and chooses a platform that sells access. The headlines don't even need creativity anymore because the pattern is familiar. It's not just she joined OnlyFans, it's she joined OnlyFans and made a lot of money. The money always comes first because numbers are the easiest way to end a moral debate. People stop discussing whether something is healthy or exploitative the moment a screenshot of earnings shows up, because the algorithm taught us one rule: if it pays, it must be a win. If it makes you uncomfortable, that's your problem. Go touch grass, grandma, you're just jealous. And on the timeline, it plays like a cultural magic trick. Half the internet goes into protective mode. She's an adult now, she can do what she wants, as if adulthood is a force field that erases context. The other half goes into panic mode. Think of the kids! As if nobody noticed the kids were already watching the kid-friendly content like it was a daily habit. And then there's the third group, the quietest but the most powerful, the people who were waiting for this. Not waiting out of empowerment, waiting like a customer waiting for a store to open. Because if you zoom out, the visual shift isn't the real pivot. The real pivot happened years earlier when the brand got built around innocence as a product, when Wholesome became a business model, when the creator's entire identity was packaged like a cereal box. Bright, safe, mass consumable, designed to feel like it belongs in a family living room. That's the environment that grows a certain kind of audience. An audience trained to believe they know you, trained to believe they're part of your life, trained to believe access is something they're entitled to because they supported you from day one. So when the day one audience hits the moment of legal adulthood, the internet pretends it's a sudden shock. But it's not sudden, it's frictionless. And frictionless is what makes it unsettling. A clean pivot like this doesn't happen because someone woke up empowered. It happens because someone learned how the machine works. Attention becomes visibility, visibility becomes leverage, leverage becomes paywall. The same crowd that loved you for being pure becomes the crowd that proves how profitable it is to be controversial. And the creator doesn't even need to insult the critics. She just needs to say the quiet part out loud. Hate is conversion. Outrage is distribution. That's why the surface level aesthetics matter. The controlled lighting, the calm voice, the "I'm owning my narrative" language. It's not just style, it's insulation. It makes the pivot look like a confident choice, not an outcome shaped by years of being filmed, marketed, consumed, and rewarded for being consumable. It turns a complicated pipeline into a simple story. I chose this. And maybe she did. But the question isn't whether she had a choice. The question is what that choice was made inside of. Because in the background, there's always a structure that doesn't show up in the TikTok clip. There are adults who understand monetization better than any teenager ever will. There are contracts, negotiations, brand safety conversations, platform strategies, revenue splits. There are incentives to keep the audience emotionally hooked, not just watching, but defending, attacking, debating, boosting. If the pivot creates backlash, that backlash is fuel. If it creates headlines, those headlines are free ads. If it creates think pieces, those are long-form engagement loops that keep the name trending. And here's the part people avoid saying because it's uncomfortable. The audience also gets rebranded. The loyal fans become supporters. The critics become haters. The creeps become just internet weirdos. Everything gets renamed, so nobody has to look directly at what's happening. Because looking directly would mean admitting that this wasn't just a personal decision. It was a predictable intersection of fame, money, and a culture that treats young creators like content farms until the day they become adult products. The myth doesn't build itself. It's engineered, slowly, politely, with a smile so bright it could light a Walmart aisle. Before anyone ever argues about an 18th birthday pivot, there's years of groundwork that turns a real teenager into a brand-safe concept. The public story is always the same: a wholesome, hard-working kid who grew up with you, who never forgot where they came from, who just wants to make people happy. It's innocence packaged as a product, shipped weekly, optimized for autoplay. First comes the vocabulary, not followers. Family, not fans. Besties, not content. Memories. The audience isn't watching a show. They're allegedly participating in a childhood. And that framing is powerful because it turns consumption into morality. If you watch, you're supportive. If you buy merch, you're loving. If you defend them in comments, you're loyal. It's emotional labor disguised as community building, and it works because it makes everyone feel like they're on the right side of something sweet and pure. Then comes the PR halo. The videos lean into harmless chaos, laughing in bright kitchens, harmless pranks, squeaky clean friend group energy, just enough drama to feel real, but not enough to scare advertisers. You get the kind of relatable problems that aren't actually problems, crushes, misunderstandings, friendship triangles that resolve in one upload. The camera never catches anything too ugly for too long, because the point isn't truth. The point is consistency, childhood on schedule. And if the brand ever gets criticized, the defense is pre-installed. They're just a kid. Stop being weird. Why are adults even talking about this? It's a perfect shield because it protects the machine while pretending to protect the child. The public gets trained to treat accountability as cruelty, and the platform rewards that reflex with more reach. You don't even need a PR team when the audience has been trained to run defense like it's a volunteer job. The myth expands with a familiar set of beautiful stories. The creator is described as mature for their age, which is always a normal, healthy compliment that never turns into anything creepy later. The creator is called a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, a young mogul. Like childhood is a startup accelerator. Every milestone becomes a brand milestone. Every birthday becomes a new era. Every haircut, every aesthetic tweak, every shift in tone gets framed as personal growth, when it's usually just audience segmentation wearing mascara. And the moral quotes, the moral quotes. Be kind. Protect kids. Mental health matters. Love yourself. It's not that these messages are wrong, it's that they're often used like scented candles. They make the room smell nice while something questionable is happening in the basement. Virtue signaling becomes part of the aesthetic. The brand doesn't just sell videos, it sells the feeling that supporting it makes you a good person. But here's the detail people miss. This myth is also a funnel. It doesn't just build popularity, it builds entitlement. When you tell millions of viewers they're family, you teach them that access is their birthright. When you sell intimacy as the core product, inside jokes, daily uploads, constant closeness, you can't be surprised when the audience starts demanding closeness in return. The myth manufactures parasocial pressure, then acts shocked when that pressure turns into a market. That's why the turning 18 moment hits like a switch. It's not a random pivot, it's a brand evolution that the system has been rehearsing. The audience has been trained to crave access. The creator has been trained to monetize it. The platform has been trained to reward controversy. So when the paywall finally appears, the story gets repackaged again. This is empowerment. This is independence. This is taking control. And maybe it is, partially. But the myth was built to make the pivot defensible, no matter what it actually costs. And now comes the micro hook you can't ignore. If the Wholesome era was truly about protecting kids, why does the business model look like it was waiting for the exact second the law stops calling them a kid? What makes this story uncomfortable isn't the existence of adult platforms. It's the way the system treats adult like a magic eraser. Like one birthday candle can wipe out a decade of grooming an audience for access. The debate online always tries to simplify it into two lazy camps. Either she's a victim with zero agency, or she's a villain who knows exactly what she's doing. But the truth, and the reason this topic holds retention like glue, is that both frames can be partially true at the same time. That's not a contradiction, that's the pipeline. Start with the incentives, because incentives explain behavior better than morals ever will. A young creator hits 18 and suddenly gains legal control over content decisions, contracts, and revenue. That part is real. But what else is real? The moment you become legally adult, the number of ways people can monetize you expands overnight. Brands that wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole when you were a minor suddenly treat you like a rebrand opportunity. Platforms with paywalls suddenly become viable business pivots. And because the audience was built around intimacy, the paywall is not a leap. It's the most logical next product. Now add a second incentive. Controversy is distribution. A wholesome creator can be famous, sure, but a controversial creator becomes unavoidable. Outrage pushes your name into circles that never cared about you. Think pieces keep you trending for weeks. Reaction videos turn your pivot into a content ecosystem where other people advertise you for free while pretending they're criticizing you. The creator doesn't have to win the moral argument. They just have to keep the argument alive, because the argument is the billboard. That's why the "I thrive off hate" posture matters. It's not just arrogance, it's a business statement. It tells the audience, you can't punish me with backlash because backlash is my fuel. It flips the power dynamic. Traditionally, the crowd's disapproval was supposed to be a social cost. Now it's a marketing strategy. Cancel me becomes promote me. The critics become the street team. And if you want to understand why this hits such a nerve, look at who the audience thinks they are. Many fans of kid-friendly channels are younger, yes, but there's also an older audience. Parents, casual viewers, and the parasocial lifers who have been emotionally invested for years. When the creator pivots, those groups react like someone changed the rules mid-game. They feel betrayed, not because they had a contract, but because the brand trained them to feel ownership. That's the dark joke. The closer the community branding, the sharper the backlash when the community realizes it was always a customer base. But the backlash isn't just moral, it's also fear, because this pivot forces the internet to admit something it avoids. Child fame doesn't end, it mutates, and the mutation often benefits the same machine that benefited before. If childhood content built the audience, adulthood content monetizes the audience. And if the pivot is timed to legal adulthood, it creates a perverse sense of inevitability, like the system is designed to ride the line as long as possible, then sprint across it the moment it's allowed. That's where the ethical discomfort spikes. The audience sees the adult content and suddenly reinterprets the kid era. Clips that once felt innocent now feel like marketing for a future paywall. Old jokes feel different. Old thumbnails feel like bait. Old "we're a family" language feels like a long con. And the creator may not have intended it that way, but intention isn't the only thing that matters. When your entire career is monetizing your own growing up, the timeline itself becomes a product. Now layer in the adults behind the scenes. People love to pretend these pivots are impulsive, like a teen woke up and said, "I'm doing OnlyFans today." Be serious. Major rebrands require planning. Branding changes, rollout timing, PR risk assessment, legal considerations, content strategy. Somebody is advising, managing, optimizing. Even if the creator is the final decision maker, the ecosystem around them is built to extract value from every moment, especially moments that polarize. And the most cynical part? The system can sell both narratives at once. It can sell empowerment to supporters and sell disgust to critics. It can sell "she's owning her sexuality" on one side and "look how far society has fallen" on the other. Both sides are content. Both sides generate clicks. Both sides keep the name circulating. The machine doesn't care which moral you choose, as long as you keep watching. This is where the conversation gets real. People say "she's an adult, let her live," but they don't ask why the entire internet was watching her as a child in the first place. People say "this is disgusting," but they don't ask why the platforms encouraged obsessive parasocial attachment for years. People scream about protecting kids, but they only get loud when the shift becomes sexual, like the years of monetized childhood weren't already a red flag. So the question isn't just, is she allowed to do this? Obviously she is. The better question, the one that keeps viewers locked in, is why does this feel less like a personal choice and more like the natural endpoint of a system that has been converting childhood into revenue the entire time? Zoom out for a second, and this stops being internet drama and starts looking like a case study in how modern status works. Because what you're really watching isn't just a creator changing platforms, it's a society that has turned visibility into currency and then pretended to be shocked when people spend it in the most profitable place. We live in an attention economy that punishes nuance and rewards escalation. A normal career move doesn't trend. A polarizing pivot does. And the algorithm doesn't ask whether the conversation is healthy. It asks whether the conversation is loud. That's why the debate instantly becomes theatrical. People aren't just reacting, they're performing their reaction for an audience. Outrage becomes identity. "I support her" and "I'm disgusted" aren't just opinions, they're social signals. Both sides farm validation. Both sides, ironically, help the machine. This is also about how we treat growing up online. Offline, adulthood is messy, gradual, private. Online, it's a switch you can monetize. That's why the 18th birthday pivot hits so hard. It exposes the weird legal fiction we all quietly rely on. As if the day before 18 is a sacred protected zone and the day after 18 is open season. The law draws a line because it has to. But platforms and audiences often weaponize that line to avoid asking deeper questions. What did years of constant filming do to a kid's sense of self? What does it do to an audience to watch someone's childhood like a long-running series? And why do we only start talking about harm when the content becomes explicitly sexual instead of when it becomes relentlessly commercial? There's a cultural hypocrisy here that people don't like admitting. We demand authenticity, then we punish it unless it's profitable. We claim to care about protecting minors. Then we build massive audiences around minors and call it family entertainment. We say parasocial obsession is creepy, but the entire creator economy runs on closeness as a product, daily access, emotional confessionals, the illusion of friendship. So when a paywall appears, it's not a sudden moral crisis, it's the logical conclusion of a system that trained viewers to crave intimacy and trained creators to sell it. And finally, this is about power, not just the creator's power to choose, but the platform's power to set the rules and the audience's power to reward whatever feels most intense. The scariest part is how predictable it all is. A childhood built for clicks, an adulthood framed as freedom, a backlash that doubles as advertising, and a culture that argues about the symptom while feeding the cause. So no, the headline isn't "She turned 18 and joined a paywall." That's the surface. The real headline is this: the internet built a business out of watching someone grow up and then acted offended when the business kept doing business. If you want to argue she's an adult, she can choose, you're not wrong. But don't pretend that choice appeared out of nowhere. It was shaped by years of being rewarded for attention, trained to treat identity as a product, and surrounded by a system that turns every life milestone into a monetization event. And if you want to argue this is disgusting, fine. But be honest about what disgust is aimed at. Is it aimed at the creator? Or at the fact that the pipeline works? Because the ugliest truth is that the platform doesn't care whether you approve. It only cares that you can't look away. Here's the punchline the algorithm understands perfectly. In 2026, outrage isn't a consequence. Outrage is a budget. Hate isn't a warning sign. Hate is a growth strategy. And the moment you realize that, you stop asking how could she do this and start asking the only question that matters. Why did we build an internet where this was the most predictable ending possible?